Hello, welcome back to the Road to Episode 8, my ongoing series where I'll chart the road to the release of Star Wars Episode 8 on December 15th, 2017. I want to talk about Snoke now. Finally get around to talking about Supreme Leader Snoke, the character that Andy Serkis plays in Episode 7, The Force Awakens, a character we were all looking forward to seeing. What is he going to look like? Who is he? And why is he there? Well, we know what he looks like. That's about it. We don't know who he is. We don't know where he came from. We don't know why he's there. We just know he's the big bad. You know, he is the Emperor. And a lot of people were criticizing The Force Awakens for that. Like, his character was too vague and, you know, we didn't know that much about him. Look at Empire Strikes Back. What did we really know about the Emperor in The Empire Strikes Back? Nothing. Absolutely nothing other than that he was bigger in rank, seemingly, in the terms of the dark ways of the Force, than Darth Vader. That is it. So people need to, again, go back to the originals and start thinking, yeah, we didn't get everything. We didn't get all the information in Star Wars. We didn't get everything in Empire Strikes Back. You know, you got to wait and see the trilogy through, see the story arc over the next few years. Anyway, Supreme Leader Snoke. I was blown away when I first saw him in the cinema because the scale, it got my heart racing, you know, and it never happened again. I've seen the film 4 times in cinema, but the first time I saw it, it was just such a great moment because I was like, holy shit. You know, and then I realized he was a hologram, and it was like, oh, you know, because it was kind of like, yeah, it was cool, but I didn't want him to be this huge creature. So it was a double. It was great because I got that kind of overwhelming feeling, and then the relief of, okay, he is just a normal sized person apparently, and isn't this huge, you know, monster creature that would be just, I think, wouldn't really work that well when we start to see him, you know, in the flesh, so to speak. Which I don't know when that'll be. Will it be episode 8, episode 9? When are we going to see Snoke? You know, and it's interesting. There's so many ways they can go with that. One thing I like about Snoke, he didn't have a hood. No one's mentioned that. I've never seen anyone mention it. I love that he didn't have a hood. He wasn't, you know, the typical kind. I mean, you look at all the, you know, the Sith, you know, the Darth Maul hood over his head, you know, and it's kind of the typical image. No hood, you know, you see his neck, you see his face. Obviously he's in the shadows a little bit, but you know, you can see this scarred head with the big slice down the. And there's been so many theories about Snoke. There have been theories that he's Anakin, you know, and they take a picture of Sebastian Shaw as Anakin Skywalker in Return of the Jedi with the kind of the deep cut on the top of the cranium, and then you see Supreme Leader Snoke who has a similar one, not in the same spot, but a similar kind of scar, and they're like, it's Anakin, oh my god, no, it's not. It's not. I mean, that's as bad as the theory that Rey is Anakin. Have you heard that one? That is a legitimate theory that Rey is Anakin Skywalker. Wow. I mean, reincarnation is an interesting idea, but that's just a bit too out there for me. Supreme Leader Snoke, who is he? The main thing that everyone's been talking about, and I haven't looked at any of the theories, I haven't looked at any of the YouTube videos, I see them all over the internet all the time in my recommended pages. You know, it's like, watch this, the Supreme Leader Snoke theory. I don't want to see it, I don't want to look into it. I want to just give you my own, just clear thoughts on it. I don't know who he is. Could he just be his own character? Yes. Could he be Darth Plagueis? Yes. Now, Darth Plagueis, obviously, if you watch this video, you'll probably know, is a Sith Lord who was mentioned in Revenge of the Sith, Episode 3. One of the best moments of the prequel trilogy when the Emperor is sitting down with Anakin and he's saying, have you ever heard the tale or the tragedy of Darth Plagueis the Wise? You know, a man who was so powerful in the Force and the ways of the dark side that he could stop people from dying. And some say he could even influence the midichlorians to create life. Now, there's a theory, given that this Darth Plagueis could create life. And we know that Anakin Skywalker had no father. He was literally immaculately conceived by his mother Shmi Skywalker. That Darth Plagueis willed Anakin to be born, and that was going to be the vessel for this, you know, this dark side power of the Force. Whereas then on the other side of it, on the light side, there's a prophecy that there's going to be someone who will bring balance to the Force, which kind of works at the end of Return of the Jedi when Vader throws the Emperor down into the bowels of the Death Star and you know, ends the cycle until Kylo Ren and Supreme Leader Snoke. And that's another thing, goes back to even before The Force Awakens came out years ago. I said I'm so excited for Episode 7, but I kind of Return of the Jedi was such a perfect ending. It is kind of a downer to see them go through everything in the original trilogy and know that it's still going to go to shit anyway. You know, it kind of almost undercuts their struggle, their journey, you know, in a way. But such is the way of these episodic tales and these ongoing myths and legends that Star Wars really seems to be a part of. You know, that's the kind of stories they're being told, that they've passed down from generation to generation, and the idea that life always keeps repeating itself and there will always be evil to be overcome, you know. And at least after Return of the Jedi, seemingly our heroes had at least a good 20 years, if not 15, 20 years of, you know, at least happier times until the First Order started, you know, surfacing, and Kylo Ren decided he was going to fuck shit up. So, Supreme Leader Snoke. Is he Darth Plagueis? Obviously, it's hinted. Again, it's not confirmed, but it's hinted very heavily by the Emperor, by Palpatine in Episode 3, that Darth Plagueis was killed in his sleep by his apprentice, meaning him. So that's when you kind of see, like, wow, this mythical, you know, dark Sith Lord who, you know, could stop people from dying. He was the most powerful Sith ever, and the Emperor slit his throat in his sleep. And the Emperor is, you know, it just makes the Emperor personify evil, you know. But what if he wasn't dead? If he's so powerful that he can stop people from dying, surely he can stop himself from dying. Surely he could make himself appear to be dead. And perhaps he hid the fact that he survived from Palpatine and bided his time for 60 years. It is possible. Within the realms of this fantasy story, of course it is. So, is Snoke Darth Plagueis? Again, it's possible. There is a piece of music that's played in the scene where Palpatine is telling Anakin about Darth Plagueis, and Supreme Leader Snoke's theme sounds very similar when you put them together. Is this John Williams repeating himself without realizing it, or is it an intentional clue dropped in there as to who Supreme Leader Snoke is? I don't know. Really, honestly, I'm 50-50. Because they didn't really reference the prequel trilogy that much, but they did. We heard Kylo Ren and General Hux talking about a clone army. We heard Maz Kanata talking about the Sith, you know, giving the Sith a mention. The Sith is from the prequel trilogy, so it's not like they disregarded it. So, are they going to attempt to make this a grand arcing story where Supreme Leader Snoke was in the game before Episode 1? And, you know, he created Anakin. Are they going to go down that route? Are they going to explain that? Or are they simply just going to say this is a guy who, you know, who the Emperor was his apprentice? You know, he was bigger than the Emperor and he's been in the shadows this whole time. Now, it's been hinted and alluded at by people who've made the Force Awakens that Supreme Leader Snoke has been around a long time. And he's been around to see all the events of the original trilogy, but he wasn't involved in them. So, what do you glean from that? If he is this big, you know, powerful Sith Lord, or not even Sith Lord, but this powerful, you know, dark side using Jedi. Well, I guess they're not called that. Well, that's the thing. You think about it. What was Darth Vader in the original trilogy when those films came out? Did people call him a Sith? No. Did they call him a dark Jedi? Is Jedi exclusively someone who uses the Force on the light side? I don't know. But this dark, you know, Lord of the Force. If he's so powerful and all this, and he seems to have been through a lot by the scars on his face, it looks like he might be blind in one eye as well. Why wasn't he involved in the other stuff in the original trilogy, unless he was scaling back and biding his time to see the Emperor, you know, fail? I don't know. There's so many ways they could go with it. So ultimately, my theory on Supreme Leader Snoke is that I don't have a theory, and that's good. I don't want to have it, you know, set in stone for me. I'm interested to see where it takes us as the audience of these films, the viewers of these films. I'm interested to see how they're going to explain him, who he's going to be. We know from the novelization that he physically knew, it seems, Han and Leia and Luke, and, you know, Leia says in the book that you know, Snoke was watching Ben from the beginning, Kylo Ren, you know, and she was, you know, he could see his potential and stuff, and so it's interesting. It really is. You know, did he become scarred after this, or? There's so many questions to be answered. But for me, if they do make him Darth Plagueis, it does again kind of undercut everything else in the past 40 years of Star Wars lore in the films, because you have the Emperor who starts to build this plan in Episode 1, continues it in Episode 2, exacts it in Episode 3, becomes the ruler of the galaxy, keeps that choke around the throat of the galaxy for the next 20 years, and then is finally brought down by Anakin himself and Luke, you know, kind of. But all of that, everything the Emperor did then, was all just merely just a technicality before Snoke stepped back into the fray. I don't know, it seems to undercut that, but at the same time, as I said, having the First Order, having Kylo Ren, having, you know, the galaxy in a bad state in Episode 7 also undercuts the struggles the characters went through in the original trilogy, but undercutting, you know, you just got to kind of let that stuff go, because again, these films, they're just going to go on and on and on, and we're going to see the same stories and the same kinds of good versus evil, you know, very clearly defined, you know, just that there's not much grey in Star Wars, you know, when it comes to good and evil, until you get to the more kind of interesting films like, you know, I think Return of the Jedi, there's a lot of Return of the Jedi that I think is really interesting with the what do you call it, not the temptation of Vader, but the uncertainty of Vader, and the way that Luke tries to convince him. That's when Shades of Grey start coming into it. But I feel like Episode 7 has really introduced that right from the get-go. You know, the original Star Wars film, very black and white, good versus evil, good guy, bad guy, must kill bad guys, you know. And that's great, and I love the feel of that. But then the more complex stuff is interesting too. And so with The Force Awakens, we're already kicking off on that foot of, you know, is Kylo Ren really as bad? I mean, what's going on there? You know, what about Snoke? Who is he? And, you know, for me, I see Rey, and I see, like, there's anger inside her when she was fighting Kylo at the end, and, you know, how is that going to pan out? So many questions, but for me, Supreme Leader Snoke, my final word on it. Is he Darth Plagueis? He might be. He might be. And it would kind of be cool to link this sequel trilogy not only back to the original trilogy, but back again to the prequel trilogy. I would like that. But, you know, it remains to be seen. So let me know your thoughts down below, and thank you for watching.